The silence between stars. Nyla floated in darkness. Her escape pod was spinning slowly, far from any planet or station. The stars outside were cold and quiet. No voices, no signals, no help. Her hands trembled as she checked the oxygen levels again. The numbers were red. She had maybe 10 hours left, maybe less. She whispered to herself, "They left me." The mission had gone wrong. Her fleet had entered the forbidden sector chasing a human signal, but something happened. A trap? A mistake? She didn't know. What she remembered was the explosion, the chaos, and her commander's cold voice over the comm. "We can't save you. Survive if you can." Then silence. Nyla had screamed, begged for them to turn back, but no one answered. Now all she had was this broken pod, a cracked helmet, and the sound of her own breath. She stared at the stars. They were too bright, too sharp. They didn't care about her. In this part of space, even the light felt empty. She pressed the emergency beacon again. It blinked weakly. "Please," she whispered. "Anyone." But deep down, she knew the truth. This area had no ships, no colonies, no life. They called it the Dead Ring. Her people said humans used to live here, long ago, before they vanished. Nyla thought of the stories about humans who burned worlds, who vanished in silence, who could never be trusted. Yet now, alone and dying, she found herself wishing one would come. Anything. Anyone. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Then something changed, a flicker. Her pod's receiver picked up a signal. Faint, but real. She sat up straight, her heart racing. She tuned it in. It was a short pulse. Not from her fleet. Not from any known code. It repeated once, then again. A pattern. Someone was nearby. "Hello?" she called out. "This is Nyla of the Zareen Empire. I'm stranded. Please respond." Silence. She bit her lip. Maybe it was just a ghost signal. Echoes bouncing between space debris. But then the pulse came again. Closer. Her pod's sensors struggled to lock on. But it was there. Something moving. Something approaching. Slowly. No reply. Just the same quiet beat. Nyla's eyes widened. Was it human? Her empire said humans were gone. Destroyed in the last galactic war. Their cities turned to dust. Their weapons scattered, like bones. But this signal, old, strange, felt human. She didn't know how, but she felt it. The stars outside shifted. A shape began to form in the distance. A ship, small, black, almost invisible in the dark. Her screen couldn't identify it. The pod shook slightly as the ship drew closer. "Please," Nyla whispered again. "Don't be an enemy." The ship stopped just a few meters away. Still no message. No lights. No weapons charged. Just waiting. Her pod door made a soft click. The auto-docking had begun. Her heart pounded. Whoever this was, they wanted her inside. Nyla's instincts screamed to stay put. But death was coming either way. Oxygen was low. Systems were failing. If this was a trap, it would be quick. If it wasn't, maybe she had a chance. She grabbed her emergency pack and floated toward the airlock. As the hatch opened, warm air rushed in. Dry, metallic, but safe. She stepped into the strange ship. The lights were dim. The walls were scratched and old. Nothing like Zareen technology. She turned and saw him, a human. Tall, quiet. Sitting in the pilot's chair. His face was rough with a scar across his jaw. His eyes were calm, watching her without blinking. He didn't speak. Nyla froze. This couldn't be real. A human? Alive? He raised one hand slowly. Not a threat. Just a greeting. Nyla didn't know what to do. "Thank you," she said carefully, her voice shaking. "You saved me." The human nodded once. still silent. Then he stood and walked toward the back of the ship. He paused, looked at her, and tilted his head. "Follow me," Nyla followed. He led her to a small room with a seat, food rations, and clean air. He pointed at the seat, then at the food. Again, no words. Nyla sat down slowly. The human stepped out, leaving her alone. She stared at the door, at the strange ship, and the food in her hands. Who was he? Why was he out here? Why save her? The silence returned, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't empty. Not anymore. The human with no name. Nyla couldn't sleep. Even though the room was warm, her body shivered. Not from the cold, but from questions that circled her mind like silent ghosts. Who was this man? Why was he out here? In the dead ring? And most of all, why did he save her? She watched the old metal walls around her. Everything in the ship was worn down. Scratched, panels, exposed wires, a soft hum coming from deep inside the ship's belly. It felt like the ship itself had seen too many battles and somehow survived, just like its pilot. The human. He hadn't said a single word. Not when he opened the door, not when he gave her food, not even when she tried to thank him again. He only watched. Calm. Alert. Like a soldier waiting for something to go wrong. She finally stood up. She couldn't stay locked in the room, not when her heart screamed for answers. Nyla stepped into the hallway. The ship was narrow and dark, lit by soft orange lights. She walked slowly, her hand brushing the wall for balance. There were no signs, no labels. It was like the ship had no name, just like its owner. She reached the main cabin. He was there, still in the pilot's seat. Watching the stars, she cleared her throat softly. He turned his head toward her, eyes sharp but not unkind. "Thank you," she said again, voice low, "for saving me." He didn't reply, but after a moment, he nodded, just once. Nyla stepped closer, nervous but curious. She looked at the control panels. They were old, mismatched, clearly not from one single ship. It was as if he had built this vessel from the remains of others. "Is this your ship?" she asked. He tapped one of the panels twice. "Yes. What's your name?" He looked at her, then back at the stars. No answer. Nyla sighed. "You don't speak?" The human reached down, picked up a small tablet, and typed something. The words appeared on a tiny screen. "Don't talk much," voice was damaged. Nyla blinked. "Damaged?" He nodded, then typed again. "Acid during a battle, years ago." She stared at the words, then at his face. Suddenly she noticed the faded scars along his neck, deep, old, half-healed. He had been through fire. A warrior, a survivor. "Were you fighting the Tsarine?" she asked quietly. His hands froze over the keyboard. Then he slowly typed, "I fought everyone." Those words sat heavy in the room. Before Nyla could ask more, an alarm beeped softly. He looked at the screen, then stood up fast. He typed one word, "Follow." Nyla followed him down the corridor into a control room filled with strange devices. The screen showed something approaching, fast a ship. "Pirates?" Nyla asked. He shook his head, typed, "Not pirates. Worse." On one of the screens, she saw the symbol. Her blood went cold. It was the emblem of the Tsarine Blackguard. Elites who erased threats in silence. She knew what that meant. "They followed my signal," she whispered. "They want to erase me." Nodded once, then pulled a lever. The ship's lights dimmed. The engines shifted to silent mode. The entire vessel seemed to breathe differently now. He pointed to a small seat and gestured. "Sit." Nyla obeyed. On the wall was a row of weapons. Not Tsarine, not human. Mixed tech. Illegal tech. Some forbidden across the galaxy. He picked one. Loaded. It checked the window. They were cloaked now. invisible to normal scans, but not to everything. Nyla watched him move. Calm. Like this wasn't the first time he'd done this. He typed, "They'll scan and pass. Unless you panic," Nyla whispered. "I'm not afraid." He looked at her, and for the first time, something like a smile touched his lips. Just for a second. On the screen, the black guard ship drifted closer. Seconds passed like hours. Nyla held her breath. The enemy ship scanned, paused, then slowly drifted away. Nyla let out a shaky breath. "We're safe," the human typed. "For now." Nyla looked at him again. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. "You could have left me. You should have." "My people." He raised a hand, then typed slowly. "I've left people before, I won't do it again." She stared at the words. "Who did you leave?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped back to the pilot's chair, watching stars again. Nyla sat beside him quietly. They said humans were extinct. They said humans were heartless. They said humans were gone. But this one, this silent man, had saved her when her own people had tried to erase her. And for the first time she felt something strange. Safe, but also afraid, because whatever this human had been through, he hadn't just survived. He had learned how to fight the stars themselves. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't done fighting yet. Memories carved in metal, the ship felt alive. Not like a machine, but like something older. Something that had seen pain, betrayal, and war. And yet, it kept moving. Kept flying through dead space, silent and strong. Nyla couldn't stop thinking about the human. About his face, his scars, his silence. He didn't speak much, but everything around him did. And Nyla wanted answers. She waited until he rested. He slept light in a chair, his weapon across his chest. Even in sleep, his eyes didn't look fully closed. Like part of him stayed awake. Always watching. Nyla moved quietly through the ship. She walked past the control room, past the engines, into a corridor with closed doors. One of them stood half open. Curiosity pulled her in. Inside, the room was filled with strange things. Not weapons, not food, memories. Walls covered with scratched symbols, handwritten notes, drawings, made by children, alien. Children. Different species, different hands. Some drawings showed stars, ships, even flowers. Others were messy, colorful, made with hope. Nyla's chest tightened. She stepped closer and saw a small metal plate on the wall. Etched into it were 5 names, all alien, none human. She touched one gently. Lorna, age 6. Beside it, a toy. A broken necklace made from buttons and wire. Nyla turned, heart pounding. This wasn't just a ship. It was a grave, or a promise. A small hollow screen blinked to life near the wall. It played an old recording, rough, glitchy, but the sound was clear. A young voice, laughing. Uncle Kai. Look, I made a flower that grows even in space. Then static. The screen died. Nyla stepped back, trembling. Kai. That was his name. She whispered it like a secret. Kai. So, the human did have a name and a past, a deep, painful one. A past filled with children who called him uncle. Nyla wanted to cry, but she couldn't. She wasn't sure if she deserved to. Her people had told stories about humans. They said humans were dangerous, unstable, destroyers of peace. But this man, he had taken care of alien children, loved them, and now they were gone. Nyla's mind raced. What had happened? What had he lost? And why had he saved her? She turned to leave, but stopped when she saw something else, an old Zareen military badge. Her empire's symbol burned and twisted, nailed to the wall like a warning. And beside it, scratched deep into the metal, were 3 words. I trusted you. Nyla staggered back. This wasn't just pain. It was betrayal. Her people. They had done something to him, something unforgivable. And yet, he hadn't killed her. He had rescued her. Suddenly she felt ashamed. Kai had every reason to hate her. Yet he had given her warmth, food, shelter, and silence. A silence that now screamed louder than any voice. A door creaked behind her. Nyla turned fast. Kai stood there, awake, watching. He said nothing, just looked around the room, at the carvings, the toys, the dead memories. Then his eyes met hers. They were full of ghosts. Nyla opened her mouth, but no words came. He didn't move, didn't shout, didn't stop her. He simply nodded once, as if saying, "Now you know." She took a step closer. Her voice shook. "Who were they?" He typed slowly on his small pad. "Refugees. Left behind during war. You helped them?" "Yes." "My people?" she asked, afraid. His fingers paused, then typed. "They promised to protect them, then burned the station." Nyla felt like her heart had stopped beating. Burned? A station full of children? She looked at the drawings again. The laughter now felt like screams in her ears. "I didn't know," she whispered. He didn't reply, just turned and walked away. But this time, Nyla followed. They sat in silence in the main cabin again. Only the stars moved outside. After some time, she spoke. "Why didn't you let me die?" Kai typed. "Because they would have wanted me to save you." He pointed toward the back, toward the names. They believed in kindness, not revenge. Nyla looked away. Her empire had turned her into a weapon, but this man, this human, had turned pain into protection. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed from the control panel. Kai moved fast. He checked the screen. Something was approaching. Again. But this time, bigger, faster. "What is it?" Nyla asked. He typed 2 words. "Not friendly." "Something is hunting them." The red light pulsed fast. Kai stared at the screen. His fingers moved quickly, checking data, switching sensors, locking down systems. His face was calm, but his eyes weren't. They had changed. Sharper now. Colder. Nyla leaned over his shoulder. "What is it?" He didn't type this time. Instead, he turned the screen toward her. It showed a shape. Massive, dark, and moving straight toward them. Not a pirate. Not a random patrol. This was something else. Something built for one reason. To kill. Nyla's breath caught. Black Hound. She knew the name. Everyone in the Tsarine fleet knew it. The Black Hound wasn't just a warship. It was a ghost ship. Never seen, never heard. Only felt, in the last seconds before destruction. "Why is it here?" she whispered. "How did it find us?" Kai typed quickly. "Your distress signal. They traced it, but you disabled it too late." Signal echoed across dead space. They followed the echoes. Nyla's stomach twisted. Her mistake. Her signal. She had brought death to this ship. Kai stood up, walked to a hidden panel, and opened it. Inside were weapons. Dozens. Of all kinds. Some alien. Some human. Some banned by every galactic law. He didn't flinch. He picked a black rifle, strapped it to his back, then another, handed it to her. Nyla took it with shaking hands. "We can't fight that thing," she said. "It'll tear us apart." Kai paused, then typed. "We don't fight it, we outsmart it." "How?" His fingers flew over the pad. "This ship is old, invisible to most scans, but only if we stay quiet. 0 sound, 0 light, 0 movement." Nyla nodded slowly. "And if they find us?" Kai's eyes met hers. He didn't type. He didn't need to. The look said everything. "If they find us, we die." The lights dimmed to almost nothing. The ship powered down section by section. Even the air pumps slowed, making the air feel heavier. Outside, the Black Hound drifted closer. It didn't scan, Didn't shout. Didn't fire. It simply watched, as if it already knew. Nyla sat beside Kai, her hand tight around the weapon. Her heartbeat sounded too loud in her ears. She whispered, "How do you know so much about this ship?" Kai typed slowly, "I built it. Piece by piece." After they burned the children, her eyes widened. He built this ship. From scrap, from wrecks, from death. He had turned his pain into a machine that could vanish from the galaxy. "What do we do now?" she asked. Typed, "We wait." But the Black Hound didn't wait. It fired. A low, humming blast echoed across the stars, not at them, but nearby. A warning. Nyla flinched. "They know." Kai's jaw clenched. "They know." The ship began to shake. The Black Hound fired again. Closer. No. Direct hits, just pressure. Enough to rattle the hull. Kai rushed to a panel. Unlocked a second control system. He typed, "We move." Silent. Under their scan. That's suicide. It's survival. He started the engines. Barely. Just enough to drift. They moved slowly, inch by inch. The Black Hound scanned again, this time more aggressive. Then suddenly, silence. It stopped. Everything froze. Nyla looked at Kai. "What is it doing?" His fingers moved. "They're releasing trackers. Trackers. Small drones. They sniff energy, heat, breath." Nyla felt panic rise. Kai opened another panel, took out 2 black masks. He handed one to her. "Put it on. Hold breath if you can. They smell air leaks." The masks were cold and rough. Not comfortable. Made for war, not peace. Nyla put hers on. Kai did too. They sat silent then. A sound. Clink. On the roof of the ship. Then another. Clink. Clink. Nyla closed her eyes. They were crawling over the hull. Searching. Scratching. Listening. One of them reached a vent. A hiss. Kai moved fast, pulled out a handheld jammer, aimed it at the vent. The tracker paused, buzzed, then jumped off. Nyla exhaled, but too fast. Hiss. Her breath fogged the mask. Too much. The system blinked red. Kai noticed instantly. He dove across the cabin. Shut off the sensor. But it was too late. Outside, the Black Hound powered up its weapons. They had been found. Nyla grabbed her rifle. Kai loaded his. She asked in a whisper, "Do we run?" He typed quickly, "No. We vanish." Then he slammed a lever. The entire ship dropped into a gravity well, a dangerous trick. The stars twisted. The lights blinked. The Black Hound lost them. Just for a moment, long enough to escape. The ship tumbled into dead space. Engines screaming, sparks flying. Nyla held on tight. Kai didn't flinch. Even in chaos. He was calm. When the shaking stopped, they were far from the Black Hound. Hidden again. Alive. Barely. Kai sat down, breathing hard. Nyla looked at him. "You risked everything." He nodded, typed, "Because you're not like them." "How do you know?" He stared at her, typed, "Because you're still here." The void speaks back. The silence after the escape wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Inside the drifting ship, Nyla sat on the floor, shaking. The walls around her were covered in scratches and dents from the chase. The air smelled like burned metal. The engines were cooling down, but the danger hadn't passed. Kai didn't speak. He checked the systems, repaired broken wires, sealed pressure leaks. His hands moved fast, but with calm, as if this chaos was familiar. Nyla watched him. The man who had saved her life twice now. The man who had been left behind by the galaxy and still refused to let others die. She finally asked the question burning in her chest. "Why do you care?" Kai paused, then slowly typed, "Because I know how it feels to be erased." He turned his screen so she could read everything. "After the last war, we sent a message. We asked for help. Food, medicine, safety. Your empire promised to protect us. They lied. They sent soldiers. They killed the sick, burned the station, left me alive. To watch. Nyla's heart sank. And the children? Kai didn't answer. He just looked toward the back of the ship, toward the drawings, the carved names. Nyla whispered, "I'm sorry." He typed, "You didn't fire the weapons, but you wear their symbol." Nyla pulled off the patch on her jacket, threw it to the floor. Not anymore. They sat in silence again. But this time, something else stirred. Her comm unit blinked. A message. Not from the Black Hound. Not from her fleet. From someone higher. Command level signal. Encrypted. Her blood went cold. She tapped the message open, and her eyes widened as the words scrolled across the screen. It wasn't a warning. It was a contract. For her execution. Her own empire had placed a bounty on her head, not for betrayal, not for failure, but for knowing the truth. Kai saw her expression and leaned in. She handed him the tablet. His jaw tightened. "They want to erase me," she said. "Not because I failed them, but because I saw what they did." Kai typed, "You saw them kill innocents. You survived. You became a risk." Nyla nodded slowly. "And now they're sending more than warships. They'll send hunters, spies, assassins." Kai didn't look surprised. Instead, he activated a small metal cube on his console. A hologram lit up, a map of the dead ring. Nyla looked closer. There were paths, secret trails hidden in radiation fields and old wrecks. "What is this?" Kai typed. "Old human escape routes, back when we were hunted." He highlighted a blinking dot. "There's a station, deep in the dust fields. No one goes there. Not anymore." "What's there?" He typed. "Evidence, memory cores, files, everything they tried to erase." Nyla's eyes widened. "You kept it?" Kai nodded. "Proof of what they did. Names, faces, dates." Nyla stood up fast. "We have to go there. If we can show the galaxy." Kai stopped her with one raised hand. "They will kill to keep it buried." "So what?" Nyla shouted. "Let them come," her voice echoed in the ship. Kai stared at her for a long moment, then typed, "You're not afraid anymore." "I'm angry," she said. "They used me. They lied. They murdered children. And now they want me dead. Because I didn't die when I was supposed to." She looked at Kai. "I want to fight back." He nodded once, then typed, "Then you'll need to know how." He stood and walked to the back wall, pressed a hidden button. A secret room opened. Nyla stepped inside. What she saw stole her breath. Training gear. Simulation helmets. Armor fitted for different species. Even human tech neural blades. Banned long ago. "You trained others?" she asked. Kai typed, "I trained survivors." He pointed. To a row of helmets they fought back. Some died. Some escaped. All believed the truth matters. Nyla picked up a blade. It was light, balanced, humming with silent energy. "Teach me," she said. Kai nodded. They trained for hours. Her body ached, but her spirit rose. She was no longer just a soldier. She was a witness, a threat, and the void, once quiet, now carried a voice. Hers. The human secret. The stars felt closer now. The ship glided through the dust fields, silent, invisible, careful. The path ahead was narrow, full of radiation clouds and old wreckage. It was a graveyard of lost fleets, forgotten wars, and broken promises. Kai moved like a shadow, his hands steady on the controls. Nyla sat beside him, her heart beating faster with every passing minute. They were headed for a place her empire had tried to erase, a place Kai called the Cradle. Nyla stared at the glowing map, then looked at him. What really happened? "There?" she asked. He didn't answer at first, but then, for the first time, he typed something longer than usual. The Cradle was a safe zone. Children, refugees, scientists. Humans and aliens together. "We built it when the war ended. We thought peace had come." He paused. Then the Tsarine came. Not with bombs, but with offers. alliances, promises. And then, Kai tapped a button. A small screen flickered on. Nyla leaned in. The footage was shaky, dark, but the voices were clear. Screams, children screaming, flames rising, her people in black armor, firing into the halls. And then, a young girl, alien, barely walking, reaching for someone. Uncle Kai. Help! The footage cut. Nyla's hands were shaking. That was you, wasn't it? Kai nodded once. And she, Lorna, age 6. She gave me that necklace on your bed. Nyla covered her mouth. This wasn't just history. This was Kai's soul, carved into metal and memory. Why didn't the galaxy stop them? She whispered. Kai's reply was simple. Because they hid it, erased every trace. And no one believed. A broken human with a dying ship. Nyla clenched her fists. Then let them believe us now. They flew deeper into the dust. Finally, the cradle appeared. A massive station, buried in a shattered asteroid. Half destroyed, twisted steel and broken domes, but still alive. Flickering with weak energy. As they docked, Kai typed, "Keep your weapon close. There may be others." Nyla stepped out first. The air inside was thin and cold. The halls were silent. They moved through the ruins. Past burned. Walls shattered, toys, broken screens still playing static. Nyla saw drawings on the walls. Children's drawings. Stars. Smiling faces. Hands joined together. Then, in red, fire. Death. Fear. They reached a locked door. Kai scanned his hand. The door opened. Inside was a sealed room, one light still working, a memory core. Kai walked forward, placed a small cube on the terminal, and pressed a button. The room filled with holograms, files, documents, security footage, names, victims, maps of hidden orders. The truth. Nyla gasped. This was everything, the entire cover-up. She reached out, touched one hologram, a record of a Zareen commander, signing the kill order, her own bloodline, her family, her name. They used me, she whispered. They trained me with lies. Kai watched her, then typed, "You were the final piece, the perfect soldier, loyal, obedient, until something went wrong." Nyla nodded. The mission, the ambush. I wasn't supposed to survive. Kai's face changed, his eyes sharpened. He pulled out a small device. Activated a scan. A red dot blinked on Nyla's shoulder. A tracker. What is that? She gasped. Kai stepped forward, held up a blade. "Don't move," he typed. He sliced the suit. Removed the tracker. It beeped once, then shattered. Kai threw it into a containment field. Nyla backed up, horrified. "They were watching me. The whole time?" Kai nodded. "They know we're here." Outside, alarms lit up, multiple ships entering the dust field. Big ones. Nyla rushed to the window. A full Zareen strike fleet, at least 4 destroyers. She turned to Kai. "What do we do now?" Kai looked at her. Calm. Steady. Then he opened a secret compartment. Inside was an old human command badge. The rank, Commander Class Warlord. Nyla froze. "You were..." He nodded. "Last surviving commander of the human core fleet. They feared us. But they should have feared what we left behind." Nyla asked in a whisper, "Do you have weapons strong enough to fight that fleet?" Kai smiled, typed, "No. But I have something worse." He pressed a final button. From deep inside the station, an ancient human system activated. A signal burst out. Across every known frequency, across the stars, across galaxies. It was a warning, a call, a voice the universe hadn't heard in years. "This is Commander Kai of the Human Core Fleet. The Empire burned our children. Now we speak back." And for the first time, the void answered. Not abandoned anymore. The signal raced across the stars. In less than a minute, ancient systems lit up. Systems buried in forgotten satellites, hidden under moons, sealed in dead ships. They had been silent for decades, waiting, listening. Now, they were awake, responding to Kai. Nyla watched in awe as screens flickered with strange symbols and replies in old human codes. Most people thought those codes were lost. Some believed they were just myths. But they were real, and they were answering Kai's call. "How many will come?" she asked. Kai typed, "Enough." Outside, the Zareen fleet moved into position. Massive destroyers surrounded the cradle station. Their engines glowed red, ready to strike. Inside, Kai didn't panic. He opened a sealed door on the far end of the room. Nyla followed. They entered what looked like a small launch chamber, but it was different. Older, more advanced, built from pure human tech. In the center was a black pod. Kai touched its side. The lights came on. Nyla stepped closer. "What is it?" Kai typed. "Arc Core, Human Defense Protocol, banned by all galactic councils. It's not a weapon, it's a message." "One no one can ignore?" Nyla asked. "Will it stop them?" "Stop?" Kai looked her in the eyes. Typed, "No, but it will show the galaxy who the monsters really are." Alarms blared across the station. The Zareen fleet had locked weapons. A countdown began. 10, 9. Nyla gripped her weapon. "Then let them," CS Kai nodded. 8, 7. He activated the arc core. A beam of white light pulsed out, faster than sound, faster than light. It pierced the command channels of every Zareen ship, in their own language, in their own records. It showed them everything. The attacks on the cradle, the children, the executions, the silence. Their silence. The Empire's soldiers froze. Even the commanders who had killed without blinking stared at the screens in horror. 6, 5. But not all ships stopped. One destroyer kept charging weapons. Loyal. Blind. Kai turned to Nyla, typed, "We can't outrun them, but we can outlast them." He gave her a small chip. "This holds the files. Get it off the station. Even if I don't make it." Nyla shook her head. "I'm not leaving you." Kai stared at her. The scars on his face glowed under the emergency lights. Typed, "I was left to die once. Not again. Not like this." He paused. Typed one last thing. "This time we stand together. 4, 3. Nyla nodded. She gripped her weapon, stood beside him. Outside, the destroyer fired. The blast hit the station hard. Explosions tore through the outer decks. Nyla was thrown to the ground. Kai shielded her with his body. The power flickered, but the arc core stayed online, still broadcasting, still speaking. 2, 1. Just before the second blast hit, a flash. Bright, massive. A new ship arrived. No, not 1, 5, then 12, then 20. Human ships, old designs, forgotten classes, ships thought destroyed in the last war. They had come. They had answered. Kai's signal reached the last of his people. A lost fleet, scattered across the stars, had returned, and they were angry. The Zareen destroyers turned to face the new threat, but they were too slow. The first human ship opened fire. It didn't just attack, it erased. Its weapons weren't loud, they were precise. Terrifying. Silent death. The Zareen fleet panicked. They tried to flee, but the humans didn't let them. Nyla watched in stunned silence. "They came back," she whispered. Kai stood beside her, wounded. Breathing hard, he typed, "We're not ghosts anymore." Minutes later it was over. The Zareen fleet was gone. The cradle stood, damaged but alive. Nyla looked out at the stars. So many human ships hovered now, not with flags, not with pride, but with purpose. Truth had called them, and they answered. Kai turned to her, typed, "Now the galaxy will listen." She nodded. "And this time," she said, "we won't be silent." Kai smiled, his first real smile. They stood together in the wreckage, not as soldier and survivor, but as two voices that refused to be erased in the void. The void no longer felt empty.